technical details if you really try. So through this book, I want to equip my readers with fundamental economic reasoning and some basic but misunderstood facts about capitalism so that they can better exercise what I call active economic citizenship and demand right courses of action from their policymakers, political representatives, and business leaders. So I'll leave you with that. Finally, with thanks to Yuna, my daughter, who helped with the picture collection, and to Jingyu for his appearance in Thing 9, and help with PowerPoint preparation. If you want to find out more about me, they are there. You can email me if you want, although I cannot promise that I'll reply immediately. I eventually respond to all my emails. Could take a few months, but I do. Yeah? So that, please take a look at the book and tell me what you think. Thank you.
So how has this happened? I mean, if we're getting it so spectacularly wrong, how has this happened? How have we come to believe all these things which are completely false?
Well, I sometimes liken it to the movie Matrix. You know, the whole world is kind of presented to us in this kind of manufactured way, and you know, the best way to prove something is to repeat it all the time, so that when people hear from everywhere, many thousands times, that Britain used to be in the pits in the 60s and 70s, Margaret Thatcher came along, saved the country, they don't even bother to check these statistics. Yeah?
Yeah, but you work at Cambridge, you've worked at the World Bank. I mean, there are smart people there. Surely they're able to spot what you've spotted, that you know, the trend rate of growth of productivity in OECD countries has halved over the last 30 years, that unemployment levels are higher than they were, trend growth rates are lower. Why are these people still promulgating these false assertions?
Yeah, well, unfortunately...
Is that just a political thing?
Oh, partly, yes. I mean, you know, put it this way, I mean, with apologies to the Catholics, the Vatican has a lot of smart people. Yeah? Sorry. No, well, first of all, you have to know that many academic economists today are not even interested in the real world. Actually, in the economics profession today, interest in the real world is an indirect admission that you are not very good. Yeah? You know, if you are really smart, you do really abstract mathematical modeling. Yeah? If you are a bit less good, you do econometrics, yeah? Basically manipulating statistics. Yeah? If you are really down in the pits, you are interested in the real world. Yeah? So there's that strange academic culture. But of course, the more important explanation is that when you say these uncomfortable things, people refuse to listen to you. Yeah? So that when some free market guru says great things about how swimmingly things are going, they're all over the financial newspapers. When people say uncomfortable things, they are just ignored.
Okay. In a sense, this book reminds me a bit of Karl Polanyi's The Great Transformation, in which he says that laissez-faire in the 19th century was a political construct. It wasn't a force of nature. It wasn't this sort of natural phenomenon. Yeah. It was a politically dominated political economy system. And eventually, it didn't work. It was clear it didn't work. So from about 1850 to about 1950, a whole bunch of reforms were made to the economic system. So you had sort of welfare states, and you had sort of graduated income tax, you had free education, the growth of trade unions. Yeah. I mean, are you saying that because this system is palpably not working, that we need to rethink some economic policies? I mean, that we need to rethink whether capital controls are a good idea, that we need to rethink whether strong trade unions are a good idea. So we need to roll back some of the things that have been done. Is that
yeah, actually, free market economies are fantastically bad at knowing how to defend actually capitalism. You know, I give some examples in the book. I mean, for example, in the late 19th century, most free market economists, including Adam Smith himself, were against limited liability. And the biggest defender of limited liability among economists was actually Karl Marx, who said that this is the vehicle that's going to take capitalism to another plane. But the free market economists really didn't understand how important this was. So I mean, the fact that you are defending something actually doesn't mean that you understand it the best, and probably that very often the kind of prescription you give are actually against the interests of the system.
Yeah. But how do you see that, before I throw it open, there's one question about political agency, really. I mean, I can see why there are quite a lot of rich, powerful people who actually kind of want to turn a blind eye to some of these defects, because they're the people, who are doing rather well out of this system. You know, if you're the owner of a company, then it's not in your interest to have strong trade unions, because you get more of the proceeds of growth yourself. I mean, how do you see, if the system is clearly not working properly and we've got higher unemployment, lower growth, and more inequality, how does that change?
Yeah, that's
given the power of
that's where my idea of active economic citizenship comes in. I mean, people have to demand changes, but then the problem is that people have been kind of brainwashed in this free market ideology that they think everything that's happening has to happen. You know, I mean, that we are often told that the factories have to move and the jobs have to be destroyed and we have to abandon manufacturing because there's great technological revolution going on and so on. I mean, that's where I bring in the example of washing machine against the internet. You know, that basically the moral of that chapter is that technology, of course, sets the boundary of what is possible, but technology doesn't determine where you are. You know, for example, in the 1950s, 60s, and 70s, the world economy was on every account much less globalized than the world economy around the turn of the 19th century, 20th century. Why? Because the governments put restrictions on the movement of things. And I mean, when you think about it, how was the world economy run in the early 20th century? It was basically run on the basis of steamships and wire, not even wireless telegraphy. But the world economy was much more globalized than what it was in the 1950s and 60s. This shows that it's not really technology, but politics that defines these things. But then, of course, people who want to defend the system want to tell you that it's all because of technology, it's all because of China, it's all because of something that's happening beyond our control, that we have to sack you and we have to move jobs and we have to make you work 26 hours a day.
So isn't it kind of, I will throw over, isn't it somewhat depressing then that a crisis which started 3 years ago at the very heart of the financial system and exposed the fallacy of quite a lot of free market economics has ended up with a policy prescription which is all about cutting public spending? That's right.
Yeah. No. I mean that's the success of the defenders of the system. Yeah? But I remain a pessimist in the short run. I mean, how come the people who almost destroyed the world economy now are coming back and lecturing us that you can't have your healthcare, you can't have your education because we need to control public finance. So that makes me quite depressed. But in the long run, I remain an optimist. 200 years ago, people thought it was quite all right to buy and sell people, slave trade. 100 years ago, they put women in prison for asking for vote. 50 years ago, all the founding fathers of developing nations were hunted by the French and the British as terrorists. 20 years ago, Mrs. Thatcher said that someone who thinks that there'll be a majority black rule in South Africa lives in the cloud cuckoo land. But these things all have happened. So that I followed the Italian Marxist Antonio Gramsci in this, who said that we have to have pessimism of the intellect, but optimism of the will. We have to make these changes. And then the first step in that process is to know what is really going on. I mean, you remember the scene where Morpheus is asking Neo whether he wants to take the red pill or the blue pill. So this is the red pill.